So Paul says, I urge you, brethren. Here, he's an apostle. I mean, the big 12. I mean, you don't get much bigger than this. And he says, brothers, listen to me. So here we see, he says, therefore I urge you, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living and holy sacrifice. Paul is going to tell these people to give their life away. Now he needs something of motivation. I mean, if I were to tell someone, look, you need to give your life away, they would probably ask, why? And Paul says here, by the mercies of God, because of God's mercies demonstrated to you through Jesus Christ, give your life away. You say, well, what are these mercies? First of all, it's a plural. The multifaceted mercies of God. I mean, it doesn't matter how you look at it, you're always going to come up with a bigger and better picture. You look at mercies of God from one side and you think, well, maybe it's one-dimensional like most things in our life. But then you get behind the thing and you realize you discover something completely new. And then you go to one side or another, or you go below and look up, or you go up and look down, and you try to grasp, comprehend the beauty of this mercy that's been given to you. And you say, what mercy? You go to the first 11 chapters of this book of Romans and you discover what mercy. The fact that we were all lost and deserved condemnation. The fact that we could not save ourselves by our own works and didn't even want to. The fact that God sent His only begotten, precious, holy Son to die on a tree carrying our sin and condemned under our judgment. And when He died, He paid the price, and after paying the price, He rose again from the dead, and 40 days later, He was exalted in the heavens. He sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high, and He sat there as God's man for you. And He ever lives to intercede on your behalf. Now, do you need more motivation? Because if you do, you're lost. If you need me to tell you that if you serve God, you'll get a Mercedes, you're lost. If you need me to tell you that if you serve God, He'll heal your body and fix every one of your problems, if you need that, you're lost. If Jesus is not enough to motivate you to godly living, you don't know Jesus. So let's keep it simple. Christ and Christ alone. No one else. I have need of nothing else. It is well with my soul. I want my sons to put their life at God's disposal. Here I am, Lord. Speak to your servant. What do you want from me? That's all. That's all that really matters. As a matter of fact, my dear friend, when you're on your deathbed, and you will be there, when you are on your deathbed, the only thing that's going to be running through your mind is, did you put your life at His disposal? I mean, I want to tell you something right now. If I were to go to Ethiopia and start 500 churches in 3 years, but God told me to be a janitor in a small Midwestern town, I'd be disobedient planting all those churches. It's not to do great things. It is to obey God. It is to put your life at His disposal, and that is it. Isn't it simple? I had a guy walk into my office one time. He said, you know, the Christian life is very, very complicated. I said, no, it's not. He said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. He said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. And I won because I was the pastor. I could also whoop him. I said, no, it's not complicated. He said, well, there's so many decisions. I said, no, there's not. I said, God's already made all the decisions, son. Now you've got the same problem I do. You going to obey or not? You going to put your life there or not? And I want you to understand, let's go back to that word brethren. When I'm preaching this to you, as my preacher back home says, my pastor, he says, I got one finger pointing at you, I got 3 pointing back at me. This is as much for me as it is for you today. All of us struggle with this. You know, we say we have so many struggles and so many things. No, you only have one struggle, and it's the same one I have. Are you going to put your life at God's disposal? That's the only thing. It's really only one thing matters. And I guarantee it, I struggle with it just as much as you do. Are you going to put your life at God's disposal? Christ first. Lord, what do you want me to do today? What do you want me to see? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to hear? How do you want me to spend what you've given me? How do you want me to do everything you want me to do? How do you want it, Lord? Here I am, Lord. Just goes back again to being at His disposal. I remember one time in seminary, I decided I'm going to live one day totally at the disposal of God. Well, that was an ambitious thing to do. I didn't make it. But I did notice some differences. I remember just, when you're young and you're in the ministry, you ought to just be locked away for a few years because you're just not right in the head. So, I just got outside of the door of my house. Okay, Lord, now what do you want me to do? It's like, well, Paul, you got a class in 5 minutes, so you better get there. But I'm trying to walk across campus, just be sensitive. And I mean, just being goofy is what I was being. But I'm just trying to every step, Lord, where do you want? And then all of a sudden, there out of the left, there was a lady that I'd talked to several times. She was an older lady, a cook, there at the seminary. And she came walking out and was standing there kind of sad. And I'm, just trying to be this spiritual giant. And the first time I felt like God told me anything that morning was, go tell her about my son. And guess what? I was willing to walk around like a zombie looking spiritual. But when it came to just loving somebody, go tell her about me. And I remember just kind of having to collapse like this and just walk over there. That day she received Christ. Sure, it was goofy. But God will honor a heart that makes any kind of attempt to be at His disposal.